Hey everybody, I'm Lauren Kalil with Morning Chalk Up, and today on the show we have Will Moorad. He's a three-time CrossFit Games athlete, been super busy, just got done with the Rogue Invitational. Will, how's it going?
Everything's good. Yeah, just finished up Rogue. I guess that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Time flies, I guess. And just kind of starting to get back into training this past week. So everything's pretty good.
So are you back into full training after Rogue, or is it, working to amp back up some volume? What's your training look like right now?
Yeah, so Wadapalooza is right now the next target, which is maybe 6-ish weeks away. So I took 2 weeks. I didn't completely stop training. I have some progressions going that I kind of wanted to continue to keep rolling, specifically like on machines and stuff. So I trained maybe 5 times, the 2 weeks after Rogue, just focusing on those sessions. And then this was the first week back where I guess it's full volume, but it's the front end of a training camp. So it is kind of like a ramping up phase. But relative to what I did for Rogue, I'm just a lot further ahead than I was leading into Rogue, just because I just did a full training camp, where I took in a month off after the games, right? No training.
Mhm.
So I'm starting from a little bit higher base than I was. I guess that was September, when I was prepping for Rogue. So yeah, we're getting back into it. I'm actually between sessions right now, so
Ooh.
just right back into another training camp. It's like climbing another mountain every time you start one of these.
I can only imagine, and you're out there with the proven team, you're training with, Tia and their crew. What has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, so right now it's just me and then Sydney Wells, Brooke's sister, are the only ones like really training. Brooke's kind of still rehabbing. She's in the gym, but she's
Mhm.
not training with us. So it's just us right now. Because Tia's in Austria right now, I believe, doing the bobsled World
Getting
Cup,
ready for that. Oh, yeah.
which I think is going on today, actually. I've been following through social media and like just following how they're doing. But yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, the whole season, right? We had me, Brooke, Sid, Tia, Street, Alec, and John Colty, who are all semifinal and games
Mhm.
athletes. So it's just been nice to have a crew like that. There's always somebody in the gym to train with, whether we were doing the same thing or not. The gym was really busy, and that's nice, especially because over at CrossFit East Nashville, it's a very huge gym. So like they'll have classes going on, and then they have a whole section of the gym that was essentially where we trained. Which, if you're by yourself, like I'm doing more or less right now, there's just not a lot of people in there. So it was nice to have like a busy, competitive atmosphere, if you will, where there's like a bunch of pros there. So it was a lot of fun.
Do you feel like it ever is so competitive because you're all going neck and neck and the quality of people training there is so advanced?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a fine line, and I think it expedites how mature you are as an athlete. I think knowing when to go, knowing when to throttle back, uh, but it's more positive than negative, I would say, um, at least from my standpoint.
Sure. Any cool stories, with the crew there and having somebody at the forefront like Tia, who's developed this training camp with Shane? What is the mindset and, the structure like day to day when you are all throwing down?
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to train with a lot of high level athletes in the game, just over the past almost decade now, and there's everybody has like the nuance on the way they attack their training and the way they plan training camps and just their mindset, period. And being able to spend majority of the last year around Tia and Shane is, it opens your mind up, because in my opinion, Tia is without much argument like the greatest athlete in our sport to date, male or female, in my opinion. And who knows what, this year goes well, then that's without a
Mhm.
doubt. So it's always a privilege to be around greatness, and just try to soak as much of that up as you can, because it's a privilege, and in my opinion, as a pro in a training camp, uh, not everybody deserves to be there, right? Like I would assume like I deserve to be there, Brooke deserves to be there. Like our crew has all made the games and we deserve to be there. And there's a
Mhm.
sense of that permeates, I think, a little bit from the top. Not necessarily like so elitist as that might come off as, but just the expectation of what it takes to be the absolute greatest in a sport. Um, I'm sure like the guys like Last Dance. I don't know if you watch like the Michael Jordan
Oh, yeah.
documentary. I'm sure a lot of his teammates had the same appreciation that like I'm kind of having. Like your
Mhm.
level gets raised every day just being around that. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. They're great friends of mine now, so yeah, I really couldn't be happier with the situation. Obviously, T and Shane aren't here right now, but they'll be
Mhm.
getting back in February, and then it'll be 2022 season. So we'll all kind of get back together as a training crew right during the open, and then the ball will get rolling. But right now, it's kind of off season comps. Like there's a small population of games athletes, I guess, only who are still in training camps where like a lot of people are in their off season and getting ready for the open where um I'm getting ready for Wadapalooza. There's a lot
Mhm.
of men and women who are getting ready for that. And then Tia's doing bobsled. So it's kind of like a time in the season where you're either gonna take some downtime, reload, or just kind of let yourself ramp up to Wadapalooza, drop off a little bit for a couple weeks, and then you can kind of cruise through the open with the structure,
Mhm.
and make it to the quarterfinals, so you can rest, if you will. But yeah, my plan right now is to do Wadapalooza, and then take a little downtime and jump into the 2022 season. But I don't think this training camp will probably be like the hardest training camp I have until maybe semifinals.
Mm.
Um, that's just kind of the way I structure it as a pro in the sport. It's less stressful that way as opposed to just being on a perpetual training groove like most people are, and they're like, oh, I just grind myself every day and I'm just always training. Kind of have ebbs and flows in my season where I know when to like put the pedal down and know when to throttle back, and it's good to have balance.
Yeah,
um,
we
but,
all need a little bit of balance. When you look at the whole season and all of the changes that we've had just in the past couple of years, did you find it difficult to figure out what that balance was? Like how many competitions you wanted to do in the off season versus just training and getting ready for the games?
yeah, so I like left the sport in 17 because of a kidney disease that I was diagnosed with. And I didn't really have a comeback until 19. Like 19
Mhm.
was my first season to like actually commit to being an athlete again. And that was when there was sanctioned events and all that stuff. And you really didn't know what you could tolerate because that structure was brand new. So like as pro level CrossFitters, you don't know how many Wadapaloozas or rogues or games you can do in a season. Like, and I think that's individual to the athlete, right? What can you tolerate um, from a physical standpoint, but also a mental standpoint? Because when you check into a training camp, like I'm like, oh, I got 8 weeks to prepare. That is like I call it monk life. Like I eat perfectly, I sleep perfectly. There's no deviating from the plan, and that's a lot on your mind and your body. So I think with the sanctional structure of 19 and then I guess part of 20, it was unknown for all of us. I think we had some data based off of the prior structures with the regionals because you're like you have a regionals. Wadapalooza was around back then. Rogue, I guess Rogue wasn't around before 19, but
Mm,
there was other big events like Granite Games, stuff like that,
sure.
where you could be like, oh, I want to compete 4 or 5 times this season, including the games. So no, I didn't necessarily coming back. I didn't think it was necessarily hard to to know how much to do or to manage the new structures. It was just kind of making a game plan and then seeing if you could execute it, right? And I think in 19, I did I did like 3 sanctioned events in maybe a 6, 7-week period. Um, MAC, Iceland, and Brazil, and then the games. So that was 4 big events in, from April to early August. And that was a lot. But with the new, that almost prepares you, I think, for the structure as it is now, because I'll turn up training. I mean, I'm training right now, I guess, but obviously the real focus is August in the CrossFit Games. It's February, it's January to August. That's a long season.
Mhm.
So I'm just more balanced and confident and relaxed about my processes now, uh, than maybe I was even in 19, because it was still new, right? Because there was more opportunities to compete. Um, I just kind of take it one objective at a time, and I think those objectives change, season to season. And I think being someone with a lot of experience in the sport now, that's something I can share with my training group, or my clients, or just anybody who's around me, coaches. I think there's just a lot of experience there that's with an always evolving sport structure. Unfortunately, you got to be that way. So
Yeah.
we've kind of experienced every every foreseeable change the sport could have. I mean, who knows? Uh, who knows what they'll come up with next? But I think the structure was fine last year. And like I said, we have these off-season events still that didn't get axed or anything, so it keeps us busy.
So then let's go back. Your first games was in 2014, and then
Yeah.
for a couple of years it was just, between injuries, and then you had the scare of the kidney failure. How were you able to restructure your mind to know or to try to compete again? I mean, you went from being a top level athlete to having all of these health issues to now you're back competing at Rogue, Wadapalooza, you're, competing at the CrossFit Games. How do you get back to there after everything you've dealt with?
Yeah, I think it's just, kind of a relentless mindset and never really giving in to a challenge. I don't look at like injuries or setbacks or just life things as they shouldn't necessarily be a negative, right? They're opportunities to learn. And I think, obviously there's some like really severe things that could obviously change you and derail you. But I've had enough of injuries and setbacks and just things that aren't the absolute perfect circumstances to know that you just got to keep rolling. It's like the age old tale. Like you get knocked, how many times? It's not how many times you get knocked down. It's how many times you get up, right? You hear a lot of people reference that, and that's really true. Pro sports are physical.
Mhm.
Injuries are part of the game. If anybody at the top level of sports says they aren't, then they're lying to you. Like there's the list of injuries I've had and surgeries and things. If I listed them, people would be like, "Damn, do I really want to be a pro athlete?" Everybody's like, "Oh, I want to go to the CrossFit Games, all this stuff, or play in the NFL and all that." And it's rough, man. It's not all the glamorous stuff that you see on social media or ESPN. There's a whole nother side, and I've been in high level sports since I was 16 years old. So I learned that mindset early on. And I think that's kind of like it comes from my upbringing, it comes from my parents, it comes from my siblings, and I'm the youngest. So maybe there's like a chip on my shoulder, but uh, that's just kind of the way I'm wired. And I think it served me pretty well just to continue to pursue what I'm passionate about. And then, I've been able to get the job done and get back to the top of the mountain, several times. And that's a cool thing. And I feel like as far as like continuing on, like I feel like I'm just kind of reaching my prime, and
Mhm.
I don't, I think the obviously, like, the end of my career is a lot closer now than, it was in 2014, but I also think, like, 30s is kind of the prime for CrossFitters. I feel good. I'll probably do this. I don't know. Who knows? Like I said earlier, it's how many more times do I want to climb the training camp mountain? But 2 or 3 more years, I think, and just keep rolling. I'm healthy. I got a pretty pretty good life. I can't complain too much. So
Do you
it's
think you'll
all
compete in
good.
masters after individual?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Masters. You hear a lot of indies like say, "Oh, I don't want to do it." Like, and I think it's because we know what it takes to climb that mountain, and
Mhm.
it's a lot on you. It's a lot on you mentally and physically, and I won't rule it out. It's not a priority right now. I told my
Sure.
wife, I was like, I want to make the games as an indie, as a Masters, as like a 35. That would be, that's cool. That's a feather in your cap, and
Yeah.
to be at the top of sport when you're 35 years old is in any sport is
It's
a,
huge.
a pretty cool thing. So I mean, you don't see many guys still competing at the peak of their sports at that age. It's like Tom Brady, Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't know. I mean, those are just the two that come to mind, but they're like mid 30s, or I mean, Brady's 44 or something. So demands of the sport are different, but I think as long as you take care of your body and you set up your life to, cater to that, the sky's the limit for athletes in this sport. And I think you'll see a lot of guys competing later and later at the highest level, and girls for that
What
matter. Girls probably longer. Like look at Briggs.
I know Sam Briggs is a perfect example, and she's still crushing it. I mean,
Yeah.
it just goes to show how the sport is evolving and people are still able to get fitter even when they become a masters athlete.
Yeah, well, I mean, and look at the flip side. Like you look at Medeiros, you look at Mal O'Brien. Like it's on the
Oh my gosh,
opposite
yeah.
side. So you know, you have all the tools when you're that young, and if you can stay healthy, and like you could have a 15-year career, and that's amazing. And I hope that they can do that. That's gonna be good for everybody involved in the sport. Um, and that'll be a testament to the methodology and all that stuff. I mean, obviously we're talking about sports specifically and not just like CrossFit as a health outlet. But yeah, I think the future is exciting, and I think a lot of people can have really long careers and stretch it, as long as they're willing to.
So let's talk about Rogue. It was just a couple of weeks ago. You finished 14th overall. What was the experience like for you day to day when you were competing?
um yeah, Rogue was great. You really expect the Rogue Invitational to kind of be the best run event. I competed in Rogue at the 2020, like the COVID Rogue,
Mhm.
and it was all online, right? And smooth sailing, everything they do is 10 out of 10, and this wasn't any different. Um, I think as far as the way they took care of us, the way they structured everything down to the locker rooms was awesome. Uh, Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to compare it to. It kind of sits in a league of its own, even away from the games. Like the athlete experience was probably better at Rogue than the games and or Wadapalooza or any of these other events. But I think us as athletes would all agree that that's a fact, and it's a model for every other big marquee event to
Mhm.
follow. Um, and there's a lot less noise going on when it's just individuals as opposed to the games is like a festival, right? With all the levels where for me I like the circuit type nature of what Rogue is. You feel like that could be something that they place throughout the whole year and maybe make it more of a tour sport thing. I know we talked about
Mhm.
the structure of the sport a little earlier.
Yeah.
um, but I think that's something that it could work. uh, as far as professionalizing the sport a little bit further. Um, I also like the 20 men and women as opposed to the 40 or 50 or whatever it is at these
Mm.
other events. It's a little more intimate setting. The days are quicker. There's less heat. Uh, there's a lot of positives with Rogue. As far as the events and stuff, it's great. My performance, it was okay. I think I missed a few. I left a lot of points on the board as far as executing goes. Much more than I would that I'm pleased with. I think usually I leave an event and I'm like, oh, I left. I gave 90% or 95% execution rate. I gave myself like a C at Rogue. It was just like
Aw.
maybe not focused enough. I mean, just silly errors, but you live and you learn. I got, like I said, I got a lot going on. My body's healthy, so Rogue was awesome. It's a privilege to go to Rogue every year. I talked to my wife the other day and some of my uh, training partners, and I was like, and if I could just do Rogue and the games, obviously in the semifinals or whatever the structure is, every year for the next 3 or 4 years, like that's success because it means you're
Mm.
still at the top of the sport. Um, the
So
invitational is a real thing.
do you
I guess
wish
I'm wearing
that
the
exactly, you're representing. Do you wish that the CrossFit Games based their structure more similar to Rogue with some of those components?
Do you mean by who gets to go or the events
Wi
or
Yeah, with, like, the event style, with having a smaller field, are those some things that really make the experience different for you as an athlete?
yeah, it's it's kind of the cream of the crop. And I think the games could still be I've always said it should be a tour sport. You just kind of there's gotta be a structure for how many events there will be. I mean, look at like F1 racing. There's 20 drivers, I believe. Um, and they kind of tour around to all these different events and there's a point system. You could do that pretty easily in our sport. You just have to figure out how to have pro cards or and then you could have like a premier league like for soccer there's like a premier league and then there's like a league 1, league 2, league 3 and you could gain promotion and like become a pro or whatever it is. That's not my job right now. Right now I'm just an athlete, but I think Rogue does it the right way. The CrossFit Games are obviously it's a much bigger production
Mhm.
than Rogue. There's a lot more athletes. Uh, I'm assuming there's a lot more title sponsors and stuff involved with that. But yeah, I think from an athlete standpoint, just purely based on prize purses, if there was like 5 rogues going on and the
Yeah.
games, that would be a lot better than one rogue and then one games, and the game season is, you know, February or January to August, and the earning opportunities are only at the games. There's a lot to suss through, but I
Lot of
think
conversations to
a
be
lot of
had.
conversations. Yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole and talk for 4 hours about this stuff. But I think my feelings are I think a lot of athletes would agree with what I have to say. And I think a lot of coaches and coaching organizations, and maybe even CrossFit would agree. It's just a slow burn on these things, and they got to make sure
Yeah,
they're going to do it right if they're going to do it.
and that's probably the best way to put it is a slow burn because I know in stories that we've covered and athletes that we've talked to and people from CrossFit that we've spoken with, it's like everybody's trying to figure out how we can make the sport more professional, but it's just slowly chipping away at the biggest priorities on the list to hopefully make a difference for some of the athletes who are still competing as individuals to see a
Yeah,
difference before they retire.
yeah, it's like they can't rush things. You want it to be done well. I thought the games was awesome this year. I thought Noble taking over was great. There's little things that they could fix.
Mhm.
Um, as far as like logistics of the athletes and making sure there's like a lot of stuff behind the scenes as far as like communication with the athletes and pretty much living under the stadium, but we have these locker rooms that they built for us on the other side of the campus that we never used. Like, it was kind of just a waste of time and energy. It was just for
Mm.
show. Like, efficiency and taking care of the athletes, they should have maybe moved where all our stuff was, and we weren't running to a million different places. And like I said, there's a lot going on. It feels like you're at summer camp or something. You get around here, and you're gonna warm up here, and then you don't really know where the hell you're gonna be for the rest of the day, and then they're gonna usher you over here. And where at Rogue, you knew where you had to be. You had a locker room. The warm up area is the same every time. Like, so, it is what it is. And some people just give the cop out CrossFit answer where it's like unknown and unknowable. But at some point, we need to professionalize things.
Yeah, like, even when it comes to eating in between events at the games, was that ever a struggle just because you didn't know how long you were gonna be, like,
Yeah,
held in a certain area?
yeah, totally. Or even if like your food was at the warm up area by the field, and then we were under the stadium, and then we were going back. So you just have to at least have your phone in your bag. So I would just have the coaches approving, or my wife, or whoever. Like, you have a team that can take care of you and get you what you need. But there's a lot of moving parts. Um, any competition weekend, I guess there's a lot of moving parts, but
Mm.
we make it work. It could be smoother, but I guess I'm just used to the chaos.
No, something that the sport needs to keep changing and
Yeah,
evolving with the athletes to make it more professional. But going back to Rogue, you say that you weren't, satisfied or, you didn't do as well as you thought. What are some of the things that you're implementing into your training right now to make sure that you are prepared for maybe some of the things that you didn't perform as well as you wanted to?
yeah. So I think in leading into Rogue, I sat down with Shane and Dwight, who are working together, and all three of us are kind of working together to figure out what's best as far as protocols for me, and peaking structures and things like that, because that's always changing. Every season that changes, just as athletes progress and whatever. I think I looked at it like, okay, I want to build to Rogue, and I don't want to necessarily peak out for Rogue, because
Mm,
I think I just like progressing things slower. And I didn't hit like peak performance on strength. We'll just call it like strength. There's a lot of things that go along those lines, but I just didn't like peak out there. And I focused a lot more on aerobic development, and the tests at Rogue were a lot more like power and strength based. So I think now I've kind of built up to a certain level. The strength and power tests that were at Rogue, I didn't execute great on, but I also wasn't hitting the numbers and stuff that I can hit.
mm.
Um, so I'm focusing more on that part of my training, and then maybe Wadapalooza, those numbers and type tests will be better, and we'll go from there. I I think it was a mix of both, right? Like, training, I didn't necessarily bias stuff as much as I should have towards Rogue, but we didn't really know what the tests were going to be.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, and I was kind of working through some injuries after the game. So it was like rehabbing, and that limits the amount of strength work you're going to do, at least if you're smart. Like, I'm not going to like smash myself. I'm going to let my body kind of adapt as naturally, as opposed to like forcing percentages and stuff. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff that you just go back to the drawing board after every event. You could win Rogue and be like, well, I executed poorly on XYZ. We need to refine this. So,
Mm.
yeah, we took some data points from that, some things that I just personally feel I want to focus more on. And we've made a game plan, and just back to the drawing board, and, back to training. And I really couldn't be happier with how training's going at least this week. I guess it's like I'm 10 days in, right? So I'm kind of starting to lift a little heavier, and my body's feeling good and strong. And I don't, I think I'm already gaining a little bit more strength than where I was at Rogue.
Mm.
Um, So that's positive, right? That means we're kind of on the right trajectory to where I want to be and where I think I need to be, uh, to be on the podium at these big events.
Mm. Ramping up training, getting ready for Wadapalooza. But let's go back to the end of the CrossFit Games. And shortly after, you had announced on your social media page that your wife, Cass, was diagnosed with breast cancer. What was the timeline like for you and her? Did you know that things were going on while you were at the CrossFit Games?
I didn't. So she said, like after the fact, she said, "Hey, like after we found out that she
Mhm.
was gonna have to get the exam, um, she was like, "Hey, I felt something like at the games, like a mass in her breast." She didn't tell me that at the games. I mean, I don't necessarily think like I think that was probably the right decision because we were gonna be in Madison for the next week anyways, and then she had scheduled a doctor's appointment, for that week, or maybe it was like 10 days after that. It's a whirlwind now. Been to the doctor a lot in the past few months. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so she didn't tell me till we got home, and then she went in and had an exam, and the doctor said, "Okay, we need to get a biopsy of this." So that was an expedited process. Got the biopsy, went and had the appointment with the oncologist, and then they kind of gave us the news like this is the situation. It's treatable from what we know now, but we kind of need to get the ball rolling. So yeah, went from I don't even know the timeline from after the games, but it must have been end of September maybe where we got the news and kind of started the process as far as making a game plan for treatments and
Mhm.
all that stuff. And we are three. She just had her third chemo treatment this past Wednesday. So we're, halfway done with chemo, which is a good thing. It's kind of a
Mhm.
milestone. And, just keep on doing everything we can to get through this. She's a badass, so it seems she's making it like a lot easier than it probably is. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we're doing what we can.
How's she doing and feeling with the chemo?
There's good days and bad days, I think, but I think her attitude's like it is what it is. I'm doing everything I can to keep myself as comfortable as I can be when this nasty stuff's in me.
Mm.
But yeah, she's like I said, she's tough. Like the other day, it was Wednesday. I had like finished training for the day because I can't go into chemo with her, which kind of sucks because of COVID protocols.
Mm,
So I'll like
mhm,
drop her off, and that'll be 4 to 6 hours that she's getting infusions for. So I'll like go to the gym and train during that time, and then come pick her up. So I picked her up, and we came home, and we were just kind of hanging out. And she like wanted to get a workout in, like same day as chemo. So we did
wow.
that together,
She
which was
is a badass.
yeah. I was like, all right, like I was like, you don't need to don't go crazy, obviously. But yeah, we got after it. We did some, like air squatting and snatching stuff. So yeah, she's as trying to keep everything as normal as possible, and
Mhm,
I think that's good. I think it's helping. We have tremendous support, not only just from our family and friends, but just the greater CrossFit community and random messages and
mhm.
people letters and stuff. It's been pretty cool.
Well, even just a couple weeks ago, I saw that CrossFit Trivium, they had
Yeah,
hosted that fundraiser. There was, I think close to $15,000 raised.
yeah,
Um, it's just such a telling point of how tight-knit the CrossFit community really is. Um, what have you guys seen besides just like the fundraisers and the messages from the CrossFit community supporting you guys through such an unknown and trying time?
yeah. So when we first got the news, like I wasn't sure how we wanted to do that. I had a lot of people around me that said, "Hey, you should be public about this. You have, a certain platform in your profession. you'll get amazing support. And I'm I've always kind of kept any injuries or like stuff like that just closer to the chest. Like I feel like
Mhm.
there's a maybe I had a perceived notion, at least for me personally. Like I don't want excuses for performances because of injuries and all this stuff, or I don't want help. I don't know. And I sat down and me and Cass were like, maybe we should, you know, we should just put this out there and see what happens. Cause it now it's like a no-brainer. It was unbelievable. The second I did that, and I kind of wanted her to lead that. I didn't. It's our story, but I don't. She needs to lead that, at least from my
Mhm.
standpoint. Um, so we did, like she posted it, and then I think I posted it like maybe a day later, the same day or something like that. And it was immediate, just the support that we got from every angle. Obviously, friends and family knew, but acquaintances and stuff like not a lot of people knew. And then it was like wildfire. Everybody wanted to help.
Mhm.
How can we help? It was overwhelming to some extent. I was just kind of like, uh, I don't know. So my sister-in-law actually set up all that stuff, and then the owners of CrossFit Trivium, which I train at Trivium and I train at CrossFit East Nashville. I've been at Trivium
Mhm.
since like 2018. Uh, So the owners of Trivium are really good friends of mine, and they were like, "Hey, dude, we want to do this fundraiser, the one that you were talking about. Is that cool?" And I was like, "Of course. Anything that's going to help, not just like fundraising, but just make her feel supported and loved and not alone is it just goes such a long way. I mean, I think just the support alone goes a lot longer way than like just finances. Obviously, finances are important during the situation, but making people feel loved and like they're thought about and stuff is unbelievable. And that's, I mean, it's continuous. At least through like social media, I'll get messages all the time just from complete strangers sending well wishes, and I'm sure she has the same situation going on. So yeah, we're pretty blessed. The CrossFit community is a really special one, and that's something I always knew and heard about, and getting support from fans and stuff at competitions is one thing, but this is a whole nother level. I mean, even competitors like guys that I've been competing against for years and girls hit me up and we're just kind of checking up, and it's good to hear from your peers and stuff. And at Rogue, obviously, everybody was checking in on Cass, guys and girls
Mhm.
that don't even really know her but know me. So it's been cool. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything more, and I think she'd say the same.
Are there ways that people can still help and support you too? I know that, having supportive people just sending you well wishes is obviously so supportive to her right now, but from the financial burden that I can imagine it puts on your family, are there ways that people can still help?
I believe that my sister-in-law set up all that stuff. I believe there's
Mhm.
like a link in my social media and there's like t-shirts and stuff like that. I think that's still live. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But
I'll double check.
it's definitely on my social media. It's like it's like the only link in my like bio thing. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, myself and everybody from Morning Chalk Up, and I know the entire CrossFit community, we wish you both well in this trying time. And it's so good to see her still, staying so positive and having you as a support system. That's really what's going to help her get through all of this and you as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Um, like I said, we're really blessed to have all the support from everybody in the CrossFit community, my friends, my family. Yeah, I mean it's I don't really know how to put it into words, right? Like
Yeah.
it's an experience that no one wants to go through, but I think it makes it so much better to have the support and to have a lot of people supporting. And it's awesome.
All right. So Wadapalooza is coming up. Just about 2 months, a little under 2 months away. What are some of the goals that you have going into the next off-season competition?
Yeah, so it's always to win. And I think below that is just making sure that I have a game plan in place. Sorry, my dog's growling. Hey, well, having a game plan in place that's going to make me confident. Sorry, let me grab him. Come on, buddy.
He wants to be on the video too.
He's growling at the kids across the street.
How was
Um,
he during Halloween?
I was in Texas,
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah, of course.
I have
Did
no idea. He
who
was probably
watched your
freaking
dog?
out. If history was repeating itself, then he was barking a lot. um,
All the kids in costumes.
but yeah, but as far as my goals for Wadapalooza, it's always to win. I've stood on the podium at Wadapalooza before,
Mhm.
and that was, I guess, 2016. I think it's just having a game plan in place that's going to make me feel confident going into the event, right? And obviously, there's metrics, like physical metrics, that can are good indicators that I can get the job done there, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, I use those. So it's a lot of pieces that you kind of put together, and health, good game plan, good mindset, and then you go down there and then you execute well, and you'll see where the cards fall. But that's always my goal going into any of these events, and you can always refine your process. You can always refine, um, your training. So that's just something I continuously do. It's like a hamster wheel always, and I enjoy that. I really love, like, I like training camp. Like I said, I like that monk life that I was referring to.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's hard. It's you don't have anything else going on, but I enjoy that. I enjoy, like, the intensity of it, and just like the hyper focus, and yeah, and I haven't, like, obviously I'm doing all this stuff, but, like, Cass is they're still supporting me like crazy. Like, it's got a lot going on, and I'm lucky to be in the position that I am, in the sport, to have these opportunities to compete, with the best in the world. All that's A lot of people strive for that, and it's you know we're gonna keep rolling. I'm excited for Wadapalooza. The Obviously, like, the events always run well. I haven't been to a Loud and Live Wadapalooza, unless 2018 was that. That was the last time I competed down there. But every time I've been there, it's been good. Uh, I know, like, Matt O'Keefe, he's a good dude. He's probably putting on a good show. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
And then you'll start getting ready for the next season for the CrossFit Games. Once everybody is back and you have that normal training environment amping up into the games, what do your workouts look like leading up to then? Like, what's the amount that you'll be training individually versus with the whole crew?
Yeah, I think. Well, like, I'll probably take 10 days or so off after Wadapalooza, and then uh, maybe longer. The open is the open's February
The
20
end of
something.
February. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, so I'll have some time. Yeah, I mean, it'll probably mirror a lot of my other open uh, prep cycles, where the volume is, like, the total training volume in the day is a little bit lower, but the intensity is higher, and then I'll probably be on a maintenance phase for my strength stuff, and maybe ramp that up a little bit leading into the quarterfinals. I don't know when Tia and them are getting back. I think it might be, like,
Mm.
the week of the open starting, or maybe a little bit after that. I don't know the timelines on that. And then as far as, like, the training camp goes, I don't know who all's going to compete this year. I mean, I don't know
Mm.
if, like, I don't know who's competing. I know
Yeah.
Sydney will compete. I think, like, Brooke's planning on competing. I don't really know what her elbow timeline is either. And then I don't know about Street and Culty either. So there's a lot of, as far as, like, my training group goes. I
Yeah.
don't know who's gonna go 2022 season and train with me, but I'll be there. And and that's all. Obviously, I'd like it if everybody was hanging out, but it's
Yeah.
a job, and I got to do what I got to do. So yeah, we got a lot going on in the next few months, personally and professionally, and
Mhm.
I guess it's better to be busy and gives you stuff to focus on and keep rolling.
It's gonna be a busy season for you. Will, thank you so much
Yeah.
for taking the time to catch up with us. We wish you the best coming up at Wadapalooza, and we hope that you and Cass stay healthy. We'll keep in touch, and thanks for doing this. We'll chat soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.